And here we go. So what I'm going to teach you guys today is actually about a modifier. And this modifier is found underneath the wrench here. Okay, and the wrench has modifiers. Now there's a lot of modifiers underneath this menu. I'm not going to go through all of them. But what we are going to talk about is one that's going to be very, very important to us here if we're building our games, and that is called the subdivision surface modifier. So before I apply it, let's take a look at our object that we've got right here. We've got a cube, nice and simple. It's floating a little bit above the ground, but it is a perfect cube. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this subdivision surface modifier, and I want you to see what it does. So right there, as soon as I add it, it takes my cube and it makes it into a circle. You've got a couple of options here under the view and the render. We want both of these to be set to 2. As you increase, you can see how it gets smoother and smoother. Okay? If I remember correctly, 2 to 3 is our maximum when we're going to be importing into Unity, because we're going to apply this modifier when you're done your object. We don't want to do that yet, but if I hit apply right now, so let's just go, let me tab into edit mode here. In an edit mode, you can see I still have my basic square, or cube I should say. But if I hit the apply, when I tab into edit mode, now I've actually got a sphere. So the apply button actually takes that modifier and applies it to the mesh so that you have the shape that you see. So I'm going to undo that here. And let's go again. So let's re-add our modifier. So there's our subdivision surface modifier. I'm going to set to the view and the render to 3. I like 3. That's pretty good. And you can see how I've now modified this object to be much rounder. Now there's some really cool things that we can do to control how this ends up looking. And that is, or the most important thing is through what we call creasing or edge creases. Okay, and edge creases basically control the amount that this modifier rounds off our object. So if I go to my edge select mode here, hit the A key to deselect, and then I'm going to select this edge here. And if I go to mesh, edges, and I'm going to say crease, edge crease, which the command key for that, or the keystroke for that, is Shift E. It took me a little while to find it in the menu because I always use the keystroke. So I'm going to hit Shift E, and now I'm going to move my mouse to the right. And as I move my mouse to the right, take a look down in the bottom left-hand corner by the axes arrows. I would put the cursor down there, but if I do, it'll ruin everything. Well, actually, I can. See right there? See where it says crease plus 1? Okay? It's telling me from 0 to 1 how much I'm creasing this edge. So watch, if I go to +1 and I lock it in, now you can kind of see how that corner has now creased itself. Now as I crease the sides as well, Shift E, you can see how it's changing the way that the subdivision surface modifier alters that image. So if I do it, say, somewhere between 0 and 1, so Shift E, say 0.5, so 0.5 or so. You can see how it's a little bit sharper of a corner, but it's not a sharp corner like those are. But if I hit Shift E and I go all the way to 1, now you can see how the crease affects basically this. And I essentially right now I've just made like a little bullet or something like that, right? I can also then crease these 4 here. So if I take these 4, Shift E, I can now make it a perfect cylinder. So I've just made a perfect cylinder out of a rectangle. So the subdivision surface modifier really allows you to do a lot of different things. I can also click the 4 corners here and you can see how that starts to affect the way this looks. So this subdivision surface modifier is really cool because what it allows me to do, here's the long and short of it, guys. what this thing allows me to do is this allows me to make a nice, smooth object with the least number of points and vertices possible. So it's easy for me to control. Which do you think would be easier for me to control? 4 points, 4 edges around the cube, or all the little points that you can imagine here that you see now that the subdivision surface modifier has been put onto it. Obviously, it's going to be a lot easier to control only 4 or 8 points instead of 200, right? Yeah, question?
The box that kind of showed up around the circle, does that come automatically when you start?
Well, yes. Well, here's the thing. That is the shape.
Well, I know
That is the cube. So right now, it's going to be like this. Now, if you were to import this into Unity right now without anything else, you would get a cube. Because you have to apply the modifier to the object before Unity will read it. Unless they've changed Unity since I used it, a year or two ago. And that's normal. That's pretty normal. You have to apply it. But we don't want to apply it until the very last minute. So let's just start it. I'm going to start something here. So I'm going to tab out of this, and I'm just going to show you very quickly practical application of starting something like this. So I'm going to delete my object, and I'm going to Shift A to add a new mesh, and I'm just going to start with, I can start with a plane. I'm going to start with a circle. Now this circle, tab in. Okay, now I'm in edit mode. Go to my vertex. Has quite a few points. I could start making a character like this, but guess what? It's going to be a pain in the butt. And the reason for that is I've got so many points to take care of that it's just not worth the time. So let me delete this. Now let's add, I'm just going to add a simple, we'll just add a simple cube. Okay? So now I'm going to start with a cube here. Tab in to edit mode. And notice one of the things that I'm noticing right now is I'm upside down. So let's go this way. Okay? So I'm going to put this up, hold the control key down, and now I should be pretty level right on the floor. Yep. So now I've got these. What I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to do a loop, cut, and slide on both sides. So there, and I'm going to do another one here. And then actually, you know what we can do is let's just bring these. I'm going to get set up by making this slightly rounded. So I've got kind of a circle. It's not really a great circle though, is it? But with the subdivision surface modifier, it's not going to matter. This is going to end up becoming the leg. So let's just zap this point in the middle here. X to delete. Take my edge modifier, or my edge selector here. Hold the Alt key down and right click, and it's going to select all the way around it. Actually, let's put mirroring on first. So this is one leg. So I'm going to slide this over to the side here in the X. Let's go to our modifiers, and let's put our mirror modifier on. There we go, so we can see how the legs are working. And then I've got this, and this is the ankle, so let's just extrude. There we go. So that's going to be like the bottom of the calf. Extrude again. And then I'm going to hit the S key to kind of scale it up a little bit. Just a touch. Extrude again. Extrude again. S key down to scale down a little bit. That's going to be right below the knee. S key again. That's going to be the knee. S key again, that's going to be the bottom of the thigh. Extrude again. Whoops, I moved a little bit when I extruded, so there we go. So extrude, left click, there we go. Scale it up, that'll be like the top of the quad. Now here's what's really cool is, so I'm started already, I've just got this started. Oops, I slid. I hate that. So extrude, left click. So now we're coming into the top of the leg here, and I can start sliding things a little bit to the side to kind of get them a little closer together. Okay. And we'll just stop there. So now watch what happens. If I take my modifier and I also add the subdivision surface modifier on here, you can see, using the other leg, how easy this is going to end up looking. So let's bring out a foot. So I'm going to click here. I'm going to delete only the edge. Extrude. Okay. Now obviously, and here's the thing. So right now, guys, it's very crude. It's not looking really specific. But now is where I can start going through here and I can start adjusting individual points. So I can take this and start defining the calf muscle a little bit. Okay? And you'll notice that by grabbing individual points, my subsurface modifier keeps it nice and smooth on the one side. So I don't have to worry about all these heavy angles that I'm creating, and I get the ability to work with basically as few a number of vertices and edges and faces as possible so that it becomes easier to edit my object. And if I just keep going with this, you'll see that in a very few short minutes, I've created a basis for a leg for a character. Work on the hamstring here. Okay. I can bring the knee out a little bit. Now, part of this also, guys, what's going to be very handy is if you have a decent, assuming that your character is human or your enemy is going to be human or whatever, this is where the plans for the sketches are going to be very important. This is where they come in. Because as you're building this, little tiny details like the fact that the back of the knee is not round like the front of the knee is. It's flat. So you want the kneecap to bulge out a little bit and you want the back of the knee to be flat. Those little details are very necessary. You're going to have to put those in there. If your sketches are not highly detailed and you do not have a very good understanding of what you're going to be building, this is going to be a much harder process for you than if you had put together detailed sketches that had all that information in them right away. So this is where when I was talking to you guys about your sketches and I was saying, this is not really detailed, you're going to have some troubles. Now you know why. It's because of this. If your sketches are weak or weaker, you also may want to look at a lot of reference photographs online. If you're building some type of a creature that's not on this planet, that's fine, but go and look at objects that have similar structures. So if it looks like it starts with the hind legs of a dog, but the front legs look like a camel, whatever, then you go find a picture of a dog, you look at that when you're building the rear legs, and then you go to a picture of a camel for the front legs. If your sketches are weak, you're going to have to fall back to something, because I tell you what, if you don't, this process is going to get really, 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 really difficult. So, in quick review, subdivision surface modifier allows us to have a really nice and smooth, very smooth surface from not a lot of points. We can use these to really create a much smoother looking object, okay, than what we're actually working with. It makes our job easier, it makes it simpler, and then literally when we're done, we hit apply and we put it into Unity to be used for our games. And it really is just that simple. Well, okay, not quite. There are some other considerations, but we'll deal with those later. Does this make sense to everybody before I turn this off and then I'll take questions?